all of the staff here at Romemu and Caroline on Zoom, all those who are allowing for this sacred hybrid space of Torah study, and with deep gratitude to everyone who is joining and spending this hour with us, bringing our attention and intention to one another for deep study that may lead, please God, into action, into how we lead our lives. Sing a little and then study. I lie, lie, lie. I lie, lie, lie. I lie, lie, I lie, lie, lie. I lie, lie, lie. I invite you to leave the sheet for now. We'll have plenty of time to read. I lie, lie, lie. I lie, 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 lie. I 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 lie, lie, lie. I lie, 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 lie. I lie, 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 lie. I lie, lie. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return, born and reborn, where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. So we are here in Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of return in the middle days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Prepared a text study that is related to this season. Before we begin, recite the bracha together for our study. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushtanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So this morning, our starting point is, how are we supposed to relate to the peak moments of this season? Excuse me if the camera is moving. It's like most people are on the other side, so I'm going to move this. Oh, that didn't work.
Hey, I'm Rabbi Yosef. While I have you, do you have a mic near you?
I have a mic right in front of me.
Can you move it a tiny bit closer to you, please?
Yes, I can move it a few inches, and we just lost screen.
Is that mic on?
Hold on just a second. Is this getting louder and softer? 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, here. For screen.
I'm wondering.
Yeah, for the screen, I can call Victor to help. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I will keep. If you can hear me, then while we're trying to get the screen fixed, I will continue.
Awesome, thank you.
We are in a season of peak religious experiences. And our tradition teaches us that these are meant to set the tone for our spiritual lives for the rest of the year. And so the question that is our starting point is, how are we supposed to relate to these experiences when that is not how we relate, how our spiritual lives look in the rest of the months ahead? How are we meant to integrate this into our paths, our spiritual paths in the months ahead? Thank you so much for looking back there. I'm really grateful that we have Carolyn on the Zoom, and very soon enough we will see our friends on Zoom. Okay, so we are now in our source sheets. Since I didn't end up putting it on the page, the first two sources are translated by my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Sam Feinsmith. Hi, Rabbi Sam Feinsmith translated these and annotated them. The third source is my translation and annotation. Give gratitude to Sam. So here we have the Ori Naim, who is a early disciple of the Baal Shem Tov. Let's see, would somebody like to read for us this first source on the sheet? We are, the general context, for what it's worth, is Lech Lecha, Abraham, the spiritual trailblazer.
Read it aloud.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just the English, it is known from there?
Yes, it is known, nice and loud.
It is known that we must proceed on the spiritual path from one rung to the next, little by little, and not ascend all at once. As Scripture writes, do not ascend my altar by steps. The rungs should be similar to each other in height and span, such that the nature of the rung we are on now should not be like that the rung that came before it. Initially, by looking upon the seat, we should come to the dimension of the ocean, which is the ocean of wisdom. That is, we draw our awareness into the ocean of wisdom. Thereafter, we ascend to the dimension of sky. After that, we merit the dimension of the throne of glory. This then is the intent of, quote, it is not in the heavens, etc. No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to observe it. Deuteronomy 30, 12, 14.
Thank you so much, which we spoke about last week in last week's Parsha. Hello, everyone. Come on in. There's plenty of seats. So let's break this down one step at a time. Do not ascend my altar by steps. Lo ta'aleh b'ma'alot al mizbechi. Exodus chapter 20, verse 23. What is happening in chapter 20 of Exodus before this verse? We have the experience of theophany of Bnei Israel at Sinai. And it seems to be an unrelated law to say very soon after, almost in the same breath, when you will build altars, here's a preference. Don't build steps, build a ramp. And so our rabbis, of course, will see these two as in relationship. What is the relationship between the law to not build big steps? Ma'alot means um,
Oh, go
points,
rise up.
yeah, points of like lift, so like jumps. It means it's used to, it's related to steps, related to the word for elevator, but it means also like ascent, jumps of ascent. So the Maori Naim is taking that to mean don't, oh, how would you say it? How is he reading midrashically this, how is he drashing on this idea of not going up to the altar of divine service in jumps?
It's a gradual process, slow process.
Sorry, can you speak into the mic, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That it's a gradual process and a slow process, not sort of change or worship in bounds.
Yes, gradual flow process should be similar to one another. That it's that there's a uniformity, that there's a regularity to it.
Also, kind of say,
Please.
not to let those highs that we feel be mistaken for just that high rather than that gradual
Okay,
foundation.
wonderful. I think that also, yes, he's pointing out that this is in some way in relationship to kind of how we integrate the experience of Sinai. Therefore, this next bit, you can read the note if you want. What we're discussing is a midrash. It's not a midrash. It's a piece of Talmud that tells us what we are meant to think about historically, traditionally, to the strings of the tzitzit. There was one string that was colored tchelet, which was from a snail. Devorah is showing us the tchelet on her talit. So the Talmud says that it is meant to remind us of the ocean, and that then the ocean is meant to remind us of the blueness of the ocean is related to the color of the sky.
Sorry, Yosef, here. I think Jay's had his hand up for a bit. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I will finish my sentence and then call on Jay. Thank you. Then the sky is meant to remind us of the throne of glory.
What's nice is those metaphors are also step by step.
Yeah, so they'll pause for just a second and then we'll, Jay?
Oh, yes, I didn't know if you could see the screen.
Yeah, it's behind me.
Not
Yeah.
directly from the source, but it seems to me that if you're ascending to the altar, doing it in small steps also has a sense of humility.
It has a sense of beautiful. Can you say more?
Well, it's almost like when you start the Amida, you take 3 steps back because you're approaching the king. And it's hard for you to open your lips. It's a similar kind of thought. If you're ascending the altar, given where it is and what it is, you should do so with humility, not in huge steps.
Wonderful. Don't think when you're going into your practice that you're going to sit down and encounter the face of the face of the divine. So we have this idea. Well, we'll get back to this Talmud in just a second.
I'm just thinking that as opposed to it telling us to be incremental, I'm almost taking the opposite, that to
Sorry, if you interrupt again, Mike, please. Thank you.
instead of incrementalism, I'm more taking it as that there's a closeness to God that you don't experience when there are cathedrals and it's very far away from you, very high up, that like the rungs are being built one at a time and the spaces that we inhabit are closer.
this, okay, you have, on the one hand, grand cathedral spaces, but here we're talking about the rungs coming down right to us. The bottom rung of the ladder that ascends to the greatest heights is right here. Beautiful. So just want to point out one thing. The Talmud is talking about bringing our attention to the throne of glory, right? These are the tzitzit on the most surface level. The tzitzit is meant to bring our awareness, to point our attention to the divine. It's like a mnemonic device. So we see the blue and we have this thought process. We're meant, like a shiviti, it's meant to bring our attention to God and allow us to ponder our connection to the source at all times. Similar to the idea that the strings combined with the number of strings and numbers of knots are meant to add up to 613, as if to remind us of our relationship with the covenantal relationship of the mitzvot in Torah at all times. The move that the Me'orei Naim is making is saying that actually, yes, these are spiritual rungs, that we can move from the rung of where we are exactly in this, our senses, we are seeing a color blue, to reaching attaining these spiritual heights.
A little confused by the text because it would seem that the interpretation would make more sense.
Sorry, Mike, please.
Oh, just a question about the text. It seems it would make more sense if it said, as scripture writes,
Yes,
do ascend my altar by steps. Like it seems to be making a case for like rung by rung, step by step.
Thank you. So,
and yet the quote from scripture says, do not.
Right.
It says,
So
make the leap of faith.
Yeah. So as I said, it's saying make a ramp and not steps. That's how it's understood. So
Okay.
steps would be understood as like jumps that you are at one plateau and then you have to move suddenly. Like if you think about the 90-degree angles of a step, it's flat until it is completely vertical. And then it's flat and then it's completely vertical. By contrast, we have the image. If you've ever seen a model of the temple based on the measurements in it is a very, here, let's see, here. It's a very gradual angle of ascent, but it is constant.
Wow.
So, okay, so we've had a few thoughts here about it being constant, being regular, being accessible. What other thoughts do you have about what the Me'orei Naim is bringing? 1, 2, 3, and let's see, do we have any other hands here on the screen?
Beth is there, yeah.
Okay, let's start with Beth, and thank you.
Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova. You know, it's so interesting, all these different conveyances. The ramp is so practical because obviously you're bringing things up into the temple. You're bringing the animals that are going to be sacrificed. You have to bring wood. You've got to bring all this stuff. Someone who pushes a wheelbarrow around occasionally, it's very practical to have ramps. And with steps, they're normally pretty symmetrical. We don't normally have steps that are out of sync with each other, that aren't identical. And the same is true with a ladder. So I find it fascinating that the idea that these steps are similar, but they're not identical. And it's such an interesting challenge, the idea of a ladder with rungs that are not identical. I just did a bunch of work up on my flat roof. And I can tell you, if I'd had to haul my tools up there while going up a ladder that didn't have uniform rungs, I would have probably been in trouble. It's a little difficult. So he's really telegraphing the challenge of our spiritual steps, that they're a conveyance, but they're also stumbling blocks in a way if they're not absolutely identical. And I find that really fascinating. He's really encapsulating a lot of different concepts into a very tiny set of words.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So one of the word that comes to mind, Beth, is dependable. That if you know where your feet are going to fall. If you're coming down a ladder there where there's uniform distance between the rungs. Okay, we're going to take the three comments in the room and then back to, sorry, it's very small and it's about 6 feet away. Is that David? Wonderful. Okay, yes.
Thank you. Yes, I'm thinking of this in relation to the story of Nadav and is it his brother Abihu who
Yes.
rush in fast and are incinerated as a consequence. And so this is again spelling out to be measured and cautious and to take things at a different type in order
Beautiful.
to approach.
Right. So remember, right before the Mishkan was inaugurated, the sons of the high priest, two of the highest ranking priests, bring a flame. They rush in, bring a flame that was not called for, but they rush before the steps of the inaugural process that would eventually, 8 days later, lead to the fire descending. But they rushed in, and you're seeing a contrast between these two. Beautiful. The second hand, yes.
Thank you. This is beautiful. So one thing in relation to that is some rabbis say they're heroes for rushing in. So that's a whole, to plunge immediately into the abyss of love, of the one love, is in one way, in one sense, a complete heroic act. So there are dissenting views on whether they messed up or not.
I think, okay, maybe I would say that nobody would argue that that is sustainable.
Oh, it's
They were-
not, okay, so
They were immediately incinerated.
So that brings us to the next point, which is our old friend Maurice Friedman of blessed memory, in commenting on Buber's and Rosenzweig's translation of what God says, who God says he is the commentary is, you do not have to conjure me, but I will be there when you need me to be there. In other words, I'm not dependable in your terms, in your view, in your little mind, but I will be there when you need me, basically.
Beautiful.
And the Jubu angle on this is the Zen master who says, attention, attention, attention. And also there's a whole more than 2,000 year literature about the sudden path of enlightenment and the gradual path as both somehow being meaningful and
Yes.
needful.
Yes. Yeah, but let's remember, this is coming after Sinai. Like we are not saying that there's no place where, if anything, it's saying yes, that there is a necessity for sudden peak experiences that we don't have the facility to fully integrate, but that there also has to be the gradual path. These two
Yes,
have to-
yes, yes.
yes, like Nachshon, like Nadav and Abihu. It seems like these are both necessary, that we live in the tension between the two.
And one last quote, which is T.S. Eliot saying, and every moment is a new and radical valuation of all that has been, which is more the sudden path, which is more that the steps actually, when you take that next step, you think it's reliable. God, God may want to up the ante and put a new element into your Jedi training by not making it.
Right, well, we can't speak for how God acts. We're only talking about how we are meant to act.
Fair enough.
Beautiful. Devorah.
I was going to say that there was a person, he's about 92, that I always have in front of my
Sorry, can you
eyes.
bring the mic closer to your face, please? Thank you. Sorry.
So that I'm working on a memoir for someone who's 92, who's always before my eyes as a symbol of holiness. Kind of he radiates. And it's making me realize to get to that place in one's life, is that, I don't think it's really a ramp, but it's just all of a sudden you're just elevating and you don't even know it's happening, but keeping your mind on that.
David.
Yeah, so every morning when I'm in the country, weather permitting, I don't have an ocean, but I have a pond. And I look down and you can only see the surface. And then I look up at the sky and there's just so much you can't see. And it's so awesome. And I think that, it's nice to be reminded that of this, there's so much that you can't see, there's so much that you can't understand, but the thing is very close to you. It's in your mouth and in your heart. I put up a
Beautiful, beautiful.
I put up a picture. I don't know if anybody can see it, but it's a picture I took this morning of the pond, and and then I put it on its side. It looks like rungs of a ladder going up, and you can see the reflection of the pond, and
Stunning.
it was something about it that just I had to put it up there because it just struck me.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
So want to point out a couple of things and then we'll move on to the next text. First of all, we didn't highlight this, the line that the one rung should not be similar to the next. So that is an interesting qualifier. There should be uniform, but just enough distance between the two that the growth is discernible, just discernible. It's not a giant leap, but it's not like watching your children grow where they're actually growing from day to day, but we don't notice it, right? It's maybe like, I don't know, like a grandparent who sees their child every couple of weeks in the summer, and they're like, wait, are they getting bigger? They're starting to just notice the differences so that we are aware of the growth. Finally, let's bring it back to the verse that David reminded us of, where the Ma'or Shemesh excerpt here is ending. We talked about this last week, or I talked about it in my Dvar Torah last week. Lo bashamayim, this teaching, this path of return is not far. No, the thing is very close to you, in your heart, in your mouth and in your heart, to observe it. The way that I understand it in the most simple level, or the way that I understand what the Ma'or Shemesh is using this verse for, kind of in line with what Julia was saying. The ladder to the throne of heaven is already within your heart. You just have to take one step, and then another, and another, and another. Keep going. If you are setting a path where you are the distance from one step to another, the frequency, the cadence, all of it that is structured and dependable for you. Yes, what God throws in your path is nothing that we can depend on. The ups and downs are that we can depend on, ups and downs. But what that looks like is completely out of our hands. What is up to us is setting this dependable path of steps before us. Maybe we'll take just a moment to read to ourselves these three questions for further thought, and we won't address them one at a time, but maybe they spark some ideas for you right now. We'll take a couple of comments before we continue with the next text, and then we can discuss them in relationship with one another. Richard, would you like to share thought with us?
Yes, please. I think Barbara was first online before me and ahead of me.
Okay, Barbara.
Hi, everybody. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
you sort of got to where I was thinking all right now in this second set of texts, but I've always noticed, at least for myself, that things don't improve always in a linear way. There's often a plateau that happens, and then there can be a great big jump of understanding. And I acknowledge that we take small steps to get someplace, but to me, it's not an even ascending path almost
Beautiful.
ever.
Beautiful. Yeah. So again, I think that's beautifully pointing towards the distinction between what growth actually looks like and the path of how our action that can promote the growth. All we can do is attention, is sit or do the practice with regularity, and then surrender ourselves to the rocky nonlinear path of growth. Richard.
Yeah, yes, thanks, Rabbi. I wanted to agree with Barbara's intuition that from the Hasidic masters, including Meor Naim, the growth. There's a saying that Yerida bezurak aliyah. There's a descent for the sake of ascent, and therefore the Meor Naim on today's parsha wrote that that the tzaddik who moves from one level to another can only go higher if he first falls from his prior rung. That is because it is out of the darkness that one can reach expanded light. So privation has to precede existence. So there's really a contrary feeling that there is no steady ramp-like growth on a spiritual path in Hasidism. And so I'm surprised that the Meor Naim is interpreted as supporting the latter in Lech Lecha.
Yeah, beautiful. So again, I think that there's actually, I mean, there's certainly a focus on, right, mitzvot as creating that sort of constant path, or the yoke of Torah being something that helps to create the steady burden of weight that we can. It doesn't get more or less or one-sided or the other, that can help prepare us for that inevitability of the growth, so that we can when we go down, we are still experiencing, we're still in our practice. That's beautiful. We live in that tension between the two. Brenda.
Yeah, I think I'm saying something similar to what you just said, that even though it seems like we're going down and backwards sometimes, that we have that inner commitment to our spiritual growth, and that we continue with that commitment even in the times where we're despairing and questioning, and it seems like we might, but that's all part of it. And if we have that inner commitment, it'll sustain us.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think this is a wonderful segue into the next text here, which is also from Lech Lecha. Sfas Emes, so we're jumping ahead 100 some odd years. And again, we're talking with the opening words, Lech Lecha me'artzecha. Go forth. Who would like to read from us here? The English is on the top of page 3.
Oh, I'll read.
Please. Hold on just a moment. Actually, can we pass this?
Here we go.
There we go. We got one. Thank you.
Go to yourself from your land. This is because us humans are being called goers. We need to always be going from rung to rung and go forth from habit and nature. Even when we merit a certain level in serving the blessed Creator, nevertheless, here to habit becomes second nature. This is why our souls need to continuously find new ways of serving the One. Abraham, our father, peace be upon him, was tested with 10 trials, and with every trial he became like a new being, creation, until he merited to go forth from his nature. As it is written, wisdom is more of a stronghold to a wise person than 10 magnates that a city may contain. For the power of nature always holds sway to turn everything back to nature, save for those wise ones who transcended all of their conditioning. As it is written, the evil impulse has no control over 3 individuals, namely the 3 patriarchs.
Okay, let us break this down. First of all, Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha, as we know, is, I think on the most shot level, is a doubling of the same word lech. You should surely go out. Lecha could be like another version of the word lech. The mystics regularly read it as lecha in the word to you. Lech lecha, go forth to yourself. Me'artzecha, from your land. He is reading here as the Hasidic masters read it, from your artziut, from your earthiness, physicality, your nature, your base nature. So what is he saying? That's the hermeneutics. What is he saying is represented in this call from God?
Reb Zusia comments on this passage. Reb Zusia comments on this passage and says, "Get thee out of thy land." That means out of the dimness your mother inflicted on you. And then out of thy kindred, that's the dimness your father. Oh, that actually the dimness you inflicted on yourself. Then the dimness your mother inflicted on you, then the dimness your father inflicted on you, and only then can I show you the land, holy land that I will show you. Beautiful. So that's Zusia's, Reb Zusia's.
Beautiful. Yeah. So how is this being read now by the Sfat Emes? How is he reading this? This go to yourself from your habit and nature. I see Jay is raising his hand.
Yeah, I think it's ironic that he's actually saying go out of yourself. The basic model here is go forth from your nature, transcend your conditioning. So the de facto model is that we actually, the transcendence, which we often talk about in terms of, many of us, in terms of trying to figure out a concept related to a God. Here, transcendence in essence means to transcend things that are in your nature, that are in your conditioning, that it just doesn't happen without doing that. The sort of kiruv does not happen without doing those things, which is an interesting claim.
Any thoughts about that?
I'm always a little. I'm always a little. Sorry.
Please continue.
Oh, I'm always a little wary of particular models of human nature as sort of confining. So I have to think about it a little more. But I think the basic idea that I can take away from this for myself is the notion that there's things that you have to actually go out from yourself, not go into yourself, but let go, like in tshuva. You have to let go of certain things in order to transcend.
I want to stick with, thank you very much, Jay. I want to stick with this idea that Jay is talking about for a little bit longer. This tension, like on the one hand, Sfat Emes was talking about, there's a dichotomy that he's making. We can connect to our highest self by putting in the work to transcend our base nature. But like Jay said, on the one hand, you can read that as coming to our best selves, lech lecha, going to yourself. On the other hand, that often can look like going away from ourselves by doing work that is denying things that are essential to who we are, in our efforts to find spiritual growth.
Oh, just, it's irresistible to add
a little closer.
Irresistible just to add the reference text, because I've been thinking all along about Jacob's ladder.
Yeah.
And the dream of Jacob and the angels ascending and descending. And you talk about the groundedness and the earthiness. And the part of that story that's kind of astonishing is not the dream, but what happens when he awakes, because he says, oh, this is a terrifying place. What have I been doing sleeping here at the gate to heaven? And he's afraid and amazed. And his response is to take the stone and turn it into a pillar.
Okay.
And anoint it in the Bronze Age way. And so he does take some kind of action. And the stone that was a place of rest becomes the stone that's pointing up at the ocean, up the sky.
Beautiful.
So he does take some kind of action to bring the ground towards the sky. So he dreams in order to awaken and take action. I think whenever we have rungs in a ladder, we're there.
And how do you see that in relationship to what we've been discussing?
Well, I think it's that he said, oh, I think it's his fear when he awakes. He was like, oh, I've been sleeping at the gate of heaven. It's right here. And all of these stories of exile and return and placement and displacement. He doesn't know where he is. He's in the wilderness, and he's like, oh, I'm at the gate of heaven. And I think it reinforces what you were saying earlier, which is that the gate of heaven is always right here.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Sharon.
Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova. I'm thinking on a very practical level of this. Is it a paradox? This idea that having a regular spiritual practice and getting in the habit of prayers, for instance, my habit is I say the Moda Ani while I'm outside looking at the trees and the Shema, but if you say the same thing every day, like we say the same words at a certain time of day or for Shabbat, how do you keep that fresh? How do you keep yourself from falling asleep? Because there's a monotony that can set in and you can fall off the path, which of course I think of as a zigzag. I think we go backwards and we go forward. It's a real zigzag. And so, I think one of the wonderful things about Romemu is that we often do, for instance, for Erev Shabbat, we sing a new song and we have a new melody. How do you, it's like, wake up. How do you keep yourself awake to these prayers that you say either week in and week out or day in and day out? And how do you keep, we have a tendency to fall asleep. So I think there's the challenge of having the spiritual discipline, but also having a newness. Maybe that's the slope with the different level of the steps. You have to keep it fresh. You have to have variation within your practice.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Yep.
Any other thoughts, Julia? And then we're going to take a moment to read the questions at the end of Sfat Emet and see if we can talk about what is happening in these two texts together and in the conversation between them.
I was taking an approach outside of what I might choose to do and more what happens to me. And this is a reasonable answer to the question of why bad things happen to good people, that there's this idea of Abraham's trial and that he needed to get knocked down and get up again. But to be able to ascend, there's merit in the hard parts of our path.
There's merit in the hard parts of our path. That is a hard one to take in and digest.
Well, this I was thinking about the acting Donna Leon in his text, The Actor and the Target. When I think of this relationship between habit and nature, it's very much like the actor is the habitual human, and then the target is nature, is the environment around us. And he says in order to have a dynamic character that the actor has to look outside of himself at the target, at the environment to create this transcendent experience. I also wanted to ask about the word magnates. I'm not sure what is that.
People.
Yeah.
Players.
So we're saying,
A magnus traditionally was a ruler or a king. And it's since the previous Gilded Age in the 1900s, it's come to mean rich dude.
so this is saying that that wisdom to a wise person, if you understand wisdom, that it is more of a source of strength than people, and people, no matter their power and influence.
You can hear that word magnificent. It's kind of
Lori.
I was thinking about how we are in terms of a little bit what Sharon said, that we have habit patterns, like ways we are in the world. Like you can see someone walking down the street, you notice how their body walks, you go, oh, it's that person. And that the journey to the transcendent and to Yud He Vav He Elohim has to do with almost pausing to go to that transcendent place where the breath comes into the body and where we're actually feeling God's essence move through us as sensation, as beingness. And that's why that oneness and the pause to come out of the habit patterns and to observe ourselves in our habit patterns can be a pathway to transcendence and oneness. It's taking that time in between. And that also our body is changing every single breath. So if every breath is God and we really slow down to be in breath, then we are renewing every breath. And that's kind of the work of Tikkun Olam. Can I meet my beloved new? You know, my intention is to breathe in the moment and stay in that present moment. But that all of us, like even in the holiday, we're looking at what did I do last year? What do I want to change? What do I want to forgive? So there's this constant ability to evaluate ourselves and to give each other feedback. You know, when I say, will you ask me for forgiveness for what I did? I'm becoming conscious of the parts of me that I want to change.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yes, we are constantly in movement and change. And it's this, we're talking about the practice that allows us to have the awareness, to be able to turn towards that truth. Okay, I'm going to tell us the third source. I'm going to just tell you in a few moments what the third source is, and then I want to bring it back to this moment, and how can we use these teachings. So it's okay. You don't have to put it up on the screen. I'm just gonna explain it outside. Thank you so much. Little Lubavitcher Rebbe wrote
First one.
the last one, wrote in, where was it? 1991 on what is, it's typically the last Shabbat of the month of Tishrei is both Shabbat Parshat Bereshit, or we're restarting the cycle of Torah for the year, and the Shabbat where we, Shabbat Mevarchin Chodesh Cheshvan, where we announce and sanctify the month of Cheshvan. So it's kind of a gateway between the old year and the new year in our cycle of Torah, between the peak moments of Tishrei and the month of Cheshvan, which often gets a bad rap because it doesn't have any holidays in it. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe takes a I don't want to say controversial stance that the month of Cheshvan is holier than the month of Tishrei. Because without Cheshvan, Tishrei has no substance. It's essentially meaningless. The whole point is to get to what he calls the Wache dicke Zeit, the weekday time or ordinary time, which is the real life. It is the real practice space in time. And so how are we relating these peak experiences into our year to ensure that it is real, that it's integrated into our being, and that it serves as impetus, as nutrients for our path for the year to come. And I know that is post Yom Kippur, post Sukkot, but already we're here on the first Shabbat of the year. And it is, yes, we're at a mountain plateau. We're at the relatively flat space between the two peaks of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in this time of Tuvah, but it's worth thinking already, how do we want to use this time to set the course of our path in our stepwise motion for the rest of this year, 5786. Devorah.
I think you get a challenge right away after davening. Like the other day, someone that just want to answer a question of mine, and you mentioned stepping 3 steps back. Who was the one that said? And
Sorry, Mike, please.
I think we get challenged right away, right after Tefillot, that I was getting, this person I wanted to know an answer from, they didn't want to tell me something. And I was getting aggressive, and then I had to remember, I didn't do it, but now I realize looking back, I should have, I kept insisting on, give me the answer. No, they wanted to step back and allow that person who's saying, no, I don't want to answer. That was my challenge. And I think right after the davening, that challenge comes. Be aware of it. I mean, I didn't meet my challenge, but maybe next week.
At the moment.
It's a little bit like in therapy, whether you're a therapist or a patient, that kind of, it's a natural wish to always want to have insights every session. And it's just not how the process works. It's a lot of talk about the day, going over things again and again, and then hopefully the insight comes out of that, the aha moments come. But you're not going to have an aha moment every single session, and that can be really disappointing. Patients, and I even think sometimes therapists, like when you get older, you start to, you don't have to give an aha moment every time. It's just not possible. So there's something to be said for people down.
So how do you prepare? I think when you're having peak experiences or aha moments, what do you do in your life to ensure that there's longevity, sustainability to those growth experiences? Paul?
By letting them go.
Paul?
I agree. I think the way to manage peak experiences is with an understanding that they're fleeting. And the connection, in my view, to what we've been talking about is God approaching Abraham occurred after, if you will, the peak experience of the flood. And a great deal of time elapsed, as Torah describes, through the genealogies. And then God reappears and hopes, but doesn't know, that Abraham will carry the mission forward. And it's expression, in my opinion, of modesty, which is the right stance to take.
Lori, and then Jay.
I was thinking of, Moses having a peak experience when he gets the Ten Commandments, and they're beautiful, and he's coming down the mountain, and then he sees everyone and gets angry, right? And the tablets crack, and then we have to have the second tablets because we're always processing peak experiences with everyday experiences of life where we're broken. So, it's like a peak experience is going to be followed by something where we're breaking and we're opening up to another place. And so, what I tell people in therapy is when you really, really touch that love, that deep love, and you're in it, slow time down and breathe and just create a memory of this place of peace, the place of love. It's like you're rewiring your nervous system that says, I am lovable and I love God. And then we'll go into all other places, but we can come back to that memory of where was it when I felt that place of love. So we don't necessarily stay there permanently, but we rewire our nervous system to have those new, beautiful memories.
Beautiful. We're going to have to wrap in just a few minutes, but let's hear from Jay and Barbara and David. And then I'll offer some closing charge to you all for this Shabbat of Shuvah.
Yeah, Paul may see this as the wrong stance, but I actually think it's really important to figure out how to bring some of the peak experiences into your ordinary life. And the text from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Kal v'chomer, Cheshvan is known as Mar Cheshvan, bitter Cheshvan, because there are no holidays, no special days. But it is, in fact, the challenge in our ordinary life to bring in some sweetness from our peak experiences. And, having worked in the community for many, many years, a constant type of question was something like Birthright Israel, which the community has invested a lot of money in. And these kids go and they have these peak experiences, but nothing happens basically when they come back to the reality of North America. So I think the challenges really are to figure out how some of those peak experiences could bleed into ordinary life of Cheshvan, how you go from Tishrei to Cheshvan, but still carry some aspect of Tishrei with you.
Barbara.
Whew, okay. I love Reb Schneerson's talk about how the everyday is really, in some sense, the peak experience, right? Because when I go through the whole high holy days, I'm like, all right, when am I going to get back to regular life? And because there's so many challenges and there's so many things, peak experiences and things to think about and return and all of this. And in fact, I have always found it difficult to integrate everything that happens into my daily existence. And I love, Lauren, what you said about it, because maybe it is a central nervous system, but maybe it's like what you said at the very beginning, that we go on these steps and they're uneven and we go, and so that, that it all basically what you said really just all ties together as one kind of beautiful way of thinking about it. And that's all I can say today because I have a horrible cold.
Thank you, Barbara. David, and then we'll close.
I hope Barbara feels better. The peak, the different kinds of peak experiences. I mean, one is communal, and that's the holidays, and those are certainly peak experiences. And then you're left alone. I'm lucky that I'm a composer, and I work and create. And I look forward. My peak experiences are what I consider to be a collaboration with God. I mean, I sit and the stuff just comes to me, and I pour it out. And my peak experiences are more of an individual thing, and it really helps me to feel like I'm collaborating with God.
Beautiful. So, friends, just to wrap up, I just want to give you a very quick charge, which is to think about how we are repatterning in this these days of tshuva, how we are creating a container to fully receive these peak experiences, but also how are we setting up a container to build new habits, to be able to hold on and reflect on our peak experiences, but also to walk the path of radical change that is one small but noticeable step at a time. Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.